Hi, my name is Lewis with Rossmann Repair Group, Mac Laptop Repair Specialist, and today I'd like to discuss some of my thoughts on the recession along with some of my own experiences, and some of it relating to how foreigners may handle a recession versus how an American will handle the recession. And again, some of it with my experience and some of it will be my experience with other people. Now, one of the grave differences I've noticed is between foreigners and Americans is that Americans are very hard set on doing exactly what it is they set out to do with their life. So if an American goes to school for, let's say, computer engineering or networking or any field like that, or what I would consider a smart job, they want to work within their particular field. So let's say somebody graduates from there and now they're working as a low-level technician or over the phone customer service technician at Optimum Online with Cablevision, troubleshooting people's issues with their internet connection. They may not want to take another opportunity to make money in a different field because they really need to work in their field. That's that's ingrained in their head that they need to work in their field because they want to work their way up the ladder and get themselves a job in this particular field, even if due to the recession this is just not a way to make money. Now, what a foreigner may do, they may have hopes and dreams, but they may start doing something. Let's take a stereotype, a cultural stereotype in New York. A Mexican that is going to mow a lawn, and which a lot of people will make fun of. And here's why they're stupid. Let's say this Mexican mows a lawn, and after about a couple of months of doing it, some people within the landscaping company quit, and somebody tells him, you know what, this would be a good time for you to become a manager. And he goes, huh, maybe I'll do, yeah, maybe I'll learn how to do that. And a couple of months later, he becomes a manager, and he's driving people to the sites, telling them what to do, and dealing with the customer. Now, let's say somebody says, you know, what you should do since you already kind of know these guys, maybe you should go and try to mow somebody else's lawn. Maybe see if you can get any of your own customers. You know how it's done from watching them do it and from doing it yourself. Why don't you try to get your own customers? And he goes, I'll try doing that. And they say, well, since you already manage these people and they already respect you, why don't you ask if on their own time if they may do some jobs for you? This way you won't even have to go to these places and you can do two of them at once and make more money. And he goes, yeah, I'll do that. Then maybe you start your own landscaping business because you're looking at the profits that your boss is making off of the work that you and the workers are doing and think, this is very profitable. And the guy goes, let me try that. And let's say he starts this business and it's successful, and then somebody says, well, the place that does our lawn in our neighborhood sucks. They cut the grass too short, they always roll over our plants, and they charge too much money. And you think, let me see if I can hire somebody who may be able to drive out to that area. And you hire somebody who, maybe not drive out to that area, but somebody that may be able to work in that particular area. Maybe you start a franchise doing this. There was a guy in Staten Island that I got to meet about 2 years ago. He lived in a home that was appraised at over $750,000, and about 7 years prior to that, he was a Mexican immigrant who came to this country and mowed lawns and made no money. And one of the neighbors, while I was on the way to this house, to fix his computer, told me, yes, I know that guy because he mowed my lawn about 5 or 6 years ago, and when he worked for another company. He's not doing some sort of genius work, and he's not even living his dream, but he lives in a home that's worth almost $1 million off of this small business that he started. And he started it by simply following the money every step of the way. Instead of saying, I only want to do this. Let's say he came here because he wanted to, start a pizzeria or something, or maybe he wanted to be a musician. Whatever he wanted to do, he followed the money. And because he followed the money every step of the way without any inhibitions, he was able to get, in the middle of a recession, a great job, start a great business, and own an amazing home. Whereas the American guy is just sitting there going, yeah, I really want to get a job doing that. Don't worry, I'm pretty sure 2013 things will be better, and I'll be able to get a job in networking, yeah. Maybe I'll finish my CCNA, and by then, with any luck, hopefully I can, maybe when the economy gets better. You know what I think of that when the economy gets better bullshit? I think it's just that. I think it's bullshit that cowards use when they are afraid to try and go for a real job, or when they're afraid to get out of the little rut that they're comfortable in. Whereas this guy, who came here with no money from a different country and knew very little of the language, was able to afford almost a $1 million home in a couple of years because he took risks and his pride didn't keep him from following the money. Because again, if you have a very low-level job in the field in which you work, you're probably not that far above the lawnmower in in the food chain. Now, I want to discuss how my experience was similar. For when I was younger, I wanted to be a psychologist, but when I grew older, I wanted to be a designer. I wanted to work on designing cool speakers that revolutionized audio. I wanted to do what Teal Audio or Vandersteen did for speakers with the driver design and the cabinet design and the first order crossovers. I wanted to do the next generation of that. I wanted to revolutionize something the same way that they had done. I wanted to do the same thing with audio electronics, like digital to analog converters and amplifiers. And that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I figured that a good way to start on that before I went to college for it, again, I thought I'm going to have to go to college for 4 years and become an electrical engineer or electronics engineer. That is, I'm going to get an internship at a place that works on this type of gear. So I got one, and I actually had two of them. And one of them was at a really, really famous place called Avatar Studios. And they have a lot of high-end gear. I got to work under some of the most amazing technicians in the world. And even though I was only there for a short period of time, about 6, maybe 8 months, they taught me a lot. I worked there 40 to 80 hours a week. And for the first month or two, I scrubbed every toilet, I swept all the garbage, I cleaned puke off the roof. I did, you name it, I did it. And I stayed there for quite a while, and I learned a bit. And I worked at another place for much longer than that, once I had a little bit of expertise. And over the years, I started when I was 17, I was able to gain more expertise. But I didn't want to do anything that made money outside of this field. Even though I wasn't making a lot of money, and even though by this point I had some good knowledge. I mean, by 2008, I could the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, I could easily replace switches on a Neve VRP, which is a pain in the ass. I could figure out why aux1 is leaking in a bus 2. And I could fix one of those original Neve compressors, one of the first ones where they had the auto release on them, like one of the first ones to come out with auto release, which at the time that was a very, very difficult compressor to fix. And I had a decent skill set, but I still wasn't making a lot of money because these services were not in demand. I was coming home with about $300 to $800 a month, which by any standards in any state is not a wage in which you can live. And I wasn't either. When I was 17, 18 to 19 years old, I was living in a very tiny room, half the size of this room, in my dad's apartment because I made no money. And over a long period of time, I made no money doing this. And I didn't want to do anything else. I was stuck in my head that I want to do this. The last thing that I ever wanted to do with my life was, plug something into a computer, troubleshoot computer problems, whether it's viruses, hardware of any kind. Even though I was pretty good at it, I didn't want to do that. I had no desire to deal with fixing people's problems, and especially on consumer hardware. I didn't want that to be my life. So I said, no way in hell I'm taking any of these jobs. I want to do this. For 2 or 3 years, I made almost no money. I had virtually no savings. And on November 10th of 2008, when one of the studios that I had worked at decided to go out of business, I had no job. So at this point, I had no savings, and for 2 or 3 years of work, I had some experience and a skill set, but no money to show for it. And I wasn't able to get another job in that field because, again, good luck finding a place that needs their J9000 serviced and that's actually willing to pay $75 an hour. The only time I had ever made some real money were on the occasions that I had side jobs from referrals where I made $75 to $90 an hour for 6 to 12 hour time blocks, but those were very few and far between. Now when I lost that job, I was still working on a session for somebody, since on occasion I also worked as a recording engineer. And I didn't have a copy of Logic because I didn't own a Mac, so I had no way to finish this session. So I decided I'm going to finish this session by purchasing a MacBook Pro off of eBay because I had no money. Now on eBay, a lot of what you buy is broken, and the $500 MacBook Pro that I bought, surprise, surprise, nothing on it actually worked. And now I tried to diagnose the problem. I thought to myself, if I can figure out what's wrong with a 50-year-old equalizer, I could figure out what's wrong with a stupid consumer laptop. So I diagnosed the problem. I purchased a part for $80, and it worked. It worked until I moved it a little bit, and the webcam wire that was not fully inserted, went a little to the side, and it smoked the motherboard along with that webcam board pretty good. I was still able to sell that computer, even though I mentioned that this did not work after I just cut that wire to get it out of the machine. What good is it anyway? After it smoked and the motherboard was smoked, I sold it for about $650. So I had made $70 off of something that I didn't even do a good job on. And I thought to myself, let me try this again. So I buy another machine, and I wind up selling it to somebody after doing the same thing again. Again, all I've done at this point is replace the screen. All I've done is take 2 or 6 screws out, put something in, put them back in, and close it. This does not require a lot of brain power, or any brain power, in my opinion. And I made some money. I was using virtually none of the skill set that I had learned, and I was making money. So I do that, and I don't fuck anything up this time. Now I make $250, and here's where things start to get exciting. Now, I buy another machine for $300 that has a similar problem as the first one. Somebody had done a poor job and fucked up the webcam. Now, I think to myself, let me figure this out. Now, the webcam seems to be powered off of 5 volts. It actually seems to be powered off of a little thingy that, after looking at a schematic and guessing, I figured that's USB. And I have another board nearby, and I measure it, and I see 5 volts at the point where on this board, there's nothing. And I think to myself, huh, this needs 5 volts to work, just like anything that is powered off of USB. A lot of the newer MacBooks have this too. They have a little USB hub that splits the camera and the Bluetooth, and it's powered off of 5 volts. It's pretty common. A mouse is powered off of USB as well. See, this little red light is because of 5 volts coming out of the USB port in the computer. So I honestly don't have a good memory of this. It was 4 years ago. I believe it was a diode and a resistor, to make sure, and the resistor in place of a fuse, where a fuse could also work in the circuit. There was a diode and a fuse. They were destroyed, completely destroyed. Like, you could not even solder anything to the board because there was just a vacant mess. So I take a wire, go from 5 volts, higher up the supply chain on the board, and I put it to this one little point. Now I take a capacitor, another wire, and I put that to ground just so that there's not a lot of ripple voltage. And I put a fuse in front of it, and I have that run to the webcam. And again, this is all kind of, cortical coated onto the board, because there's no place to even solder to, and it actually worked. Now I was able to sell this computer for over $750. So now I had made $400-something off of one machine. At this point, I made $1,000, all off of this same model computer, almost $1,000 bucks. And all I've done is take a couple of screws out, put a couple of screws back in. In this case, again, I'm fixing a similar problem to the screen problem on the same model computer. I only know how to work on one model computer at this point. This is something that keeps other people from starting a business. They think, I have to go to college for 4 years, then I have to get an internship, then I have to get my master's degree, then I have to get my certification, then I have to... No, fuck that. You don't need to do any of that to start a business or to make money. If you only know how to do this one stupid thing, if you only know how to take these 6 screws out, take this component out and replace it, then put an ad up and write as many ads as you can, post them on as many billboards or as many telephone stands, if they even have payphones anymore, as many telephone poles as you can, and tell people that I know how to do this and this is how much I charge. It's the same thing with recording. Don't say, I have to get an internship, then I have to go to audio school, which, by the way, don't fucking go to audio school. You don't have to go to there, then get an internship, then do this, then spend, 9,000 hours recording other people before you can finally advertise it. If all you know how to do is hit the record button and make a demo without even editing it. Figure out what rate you want to charge, hit the stupid little record button, and make that demo, and make the 20 or 30 bucks off of it. Then the next time, maybe you'll get a little better and learn how to do something else and charge a little more money. Maybe more people will hear about you, and this is the way you start growing a business. The worst thing you could do is say, I only know how to do this. And since I only know how to do this, I'm not qualified to do it, so therefore I'm not going to start. Because if you don't start, you're screwed. And if you wait until you learn everything to start, you're even more screwed. So anyway, I only know how to do this one thing. So I advertise it. And I make maybe 100 to 125 a week, which again, that's more than the low end of what I was making before in a month. And then somebody comes along, I think I was trying to sell a computer to him, and he says, well, you're actually not trying to compete for all these other models because this person says they'll do it for $149, but they won't actually do it for $149. And I go, really? Then somebody tells me, you should try to compete with this place because they don't actually charge $149 for this service. If you call them, they'll tell you that this service is $149, and then when you show up to the store, they'll say, oh, that's for the part. Yeah, you want us to do it. That's $250. So I gave it a shot. And I called them and I said, I saw that you would fix this computer, this model computer with this problem for $149. And they go, yeah. And then I show up and they say, oh yeah, well that's the part. If you want us to do it, it's $250. And I thought, holy fucking shit, this dude is right. Now that there's a $101 difference between what was advertised and what's real, I know that there's an opportunity to make money, because I thought that the most I'd be able to charge is maybe 120 to 130 because I don't have a store, but in reality, he's charging 250. So if I want to charge 130 to 180, I can do that and still make some money. Now, a couple of months down the line, somebody says, why don't you offer services for this and this and this model? And I thought, okay, cool, I'll try that. And then now I'm up to making, $400 or $500 a week. Then somebody else says, hey, why are you buying stuff from this place? If you buy from this place, and I'm sure you use enough parts, you could save a lot of money. Instead of paying $90 to $100 for X, Y, and Z, you could be paying $50 to $60. And I try it, and I order 20, and they're all good, so I think, okay, now I save myself some money. At this point, I'm making about $800 a week. Literally $800 a week, when about 4 or 5 months prior, I had no money, I was unemployed, and for 3 years I never made more than $600 to $800, $300 a month. And now I'm pretty happy and excited. And by around June or July, I was making $1,000 to $1,200 a week doing nothing other than this one stupid laptop screen replacement nonsense. And just because I had specifically advertised to the faults of other businesses. The part is here, the price that you read does not change on you for any reason, and it'll be done the same day. We'll come to you so that you don't have to bother schlepping something else to a store. I turned the benefit of a store into an actual negative by saying you won't have to go leave your apartment to have this done, and it really turned into something. Now, again, what I had wanted to do with my life was radically different from what I was doing with my life, and this is not what I wanted to do. But since I just kept following the money every step of the way, taking people's advice on how to do a little bit better, and a little bit better this week, a little bit better this week, and how I can make a little more money here, I can make a little bit more money here if I just try to do something else, while not losing the core of what I did, I got to making $1,200 a week without a college degree. I had dropped out of college at this point because I was making so much money. And I was 20 years old, and I could afford to go downstairs to Gardenia Deli 3 or 4 times a day and buy the nicest meal that I could get, for $12 each. And I was spending almost $40 a day just on food. I got my Teal CS 3.6 speakers reconed so that I could listen to them in the new apartment that I had moved into. I was no longer living with my dad in a room half the size of this one because I was 19 and broke. I was living a much better quality of life. It was because I got out of the mindset that this is the only thing that you can do. Now, this is not specifically what I wanted to do. I wanted to do what I wanted to do before because I wanted to help people and make people happy. Now, if I'm doing something and I'm doing it a little better than other places are and a little cheaper, I'm making them happy. And then but I'm still not happy with that. I moved on to start a supply company because I was having a lot of problems purchasing good parts. So now I have a company that will sell parts to people for a lower price than other companies, and from a repairman's perspective, and even though this is not what I planned on doing with my life, I enjoy it, and I really enjoy it, and it brings me happiness. And the reason I wanted to do those other things in my life is because I wanted to be happy. I wanted to do something that I enjoyed, and since now I not only enjoy what I'm doing because it makes me money, I actually legitimately enjoy making people happy, and I have an opportunity to do that every day now. So, because I didn't stay stuck in this little pigeonhole that this is what I wanted to do, this is what I may be qualified to do, I'm able to make a lot more money. Now, if you think about it, there are a lot of jobs out there that where you don't need to know a lot to make a lot of money. For example, let's say you want to be a creative writer. Let's say you want to write an amazing novel. There's a very low chance of you writing the next great American horror novel and actually making a lot of money at it than there is at going to Craigslist, getting a job as a writer at a website that needs somebody to write for their blog, for search engine optimization. So if you could come up with creative ways to use the same keyword 5 times without having Google, step on you for writing garbage or using the same keyword over and over, if you're a good writer or a journalist, you can do this. And there are people on Craigslist that are willing to pay $60 to $80 per blog entry, which is ridiculous in my opinion, but $60 to $80 for something that you may be able to write in 15 minutes. And a lot of people, even people who are out of work, will say, no, that's not what I want to do with my life. You should go ahead and do it. The same thing in this industry. I am using 5 to 10% of my brain power, even when I'm working on difficult shit, such as, why does this motherboard have no USB? Why does this motherboard not turn on? Why does this screen not work? Why does, this click? Whatever it is inside of a laptop, I'm using 10 to 15% of my brain power that I used to use when I had to fix more complex issues on broadcast gear, and I'm making a lot more money at it. It takes a lot less brain power to be a slumlord than it does to be a journalist, but who do you think makes more money? If you buy a garbage house in a crappy neighborhood somewhere in, Tennessee or Virginia or Maryland or, Mississippi, if you buy some garbage, crappy little house for $9,000 or $11,000 and then rent that house out, basement, first floor, and second floor, to 3 families, you will make a fuck ton of money. And if you buy a couple of those houses and you finance them while taking rent in every single month from every single one of these people, you will just, pile on the money. And any piece of garbage can be a slumlord. I'm not saying you should be a slumlord, but my point is, making money is not as difficult as it seems. And people who are not from America are typically a little bit more comfortable with following the money instead of saying, I particularly want to do this. They're a little more adept or ready and willing to learn a new skill set in order to find a job in a recession than somebody who, has this American mentality. I must go to college. I must graduate. I must get a master's degree. I must go to an internship. I must become certified. I must get 2 years of experience. Then I will make $60,000 a year doing position Z at company A. Again, you can do that, but in a recession, a lot of those jobs are not going to be available. You're going to have to make your own job, and a part of making your own job is making your skill set and paving your way. And you can't pave your way when you have this mindset that because I don't know how to do everything in a field, I can't do it. I'll use myself as an example. I would like to try to make some more money here at the store. We pay disability, workman's compensation, liability insurance, taxes, licenses. We're a fully legitimate company now. And part of being a legitimate company means paying a lot of money for a lot of crap. What we pay now in expenses is more than what I had in gross income when I started. So I would like to offset some of this by offering some new services. And one of the things that I would like to do is sell accessories. I don't have much aesthetic taste. I don't know any modern trends. I don't know where to buy good accessories. I don't know how to sell them. I don't know how to showcase them. I don't know anything about how to have an accessory store in any way. But I don't really care. I would like to learn how to do one thing, and I'm just going to try it and see what happens. I'm not going to let the fact that I don't know how to do something keep me from doing it. But most people don't like feeling like idiots, and most people don't like doing things they don't know how to do. But somebody said everything's easy when you know how to do it, and everything seems impossible when you don't know how to do it. So I talked to somebody, I asked them a couple of questions, and I'm sure I'm going to be paying too much for certain things. I'm sure I may buy a couple of things that may not sell, but I'm going to get myself, a nice little LED light strip, a glass case, and a couple of accessories, and see what happens. And I'd like to, and maybe that fails, maybe it turns into a real business, and maybe I take it a little bit more from there as people give advice and as I learn more. And I'm going to keep doing this. Just because I've had some success doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying to have more success in other fields. A lot of people will say to themselves, I'm doing pretty good, okay, and that's it. It's not a coincidence that most people can only make exactly enough money to support the bare minimum lifestyle. It's not a coincidence that the average person has this much expenses and maybe this much salary or this much salary. It's not a coincidence that most of the world has a salary that matches their expenses. What most people do is they only work just hard enough to get what they need to get by in life. And because and I've done that too. Once this place was here and working and everything was doing well, I said, for 2 or 3 years I've spent 15, 16 hours a day working. Let me try spending, 4 or 5 for a little while. And nothing grew and nothing occurred. And that started to scare me because I looked and I thought, you should never be content with what you have, because if you're content with this, something may happen to take you from here down to here. Something may happen that makes you lose this much. And let's say you need to make this much to live. And if you lose this much, now you can't live. Whereas if you're here and you lose this much, you're still above what you needed to live. I don't want to be at a point where I'm content with making what I have. I don't want to not appreciate what I have. There's a difference between not appreciating what you have and just wanting more just for basic survival. But I started to get worried because I started becoming like the person from the beginning of this video that only wants to do what they do. I want to sell laptop screens and MacBook parts, and I want to repair Apple laptop computers at a hardware level. I didn't try to figure out how I could do something else. And you should always be looking to see how to do something else. We now sell, let's say, a bunch of different PC LCD screens. We have a plethora of repair services for other machines. We have a logic board repair service where people from all around the country will send in boards to get repaired for their own customers. We have a lot of different things going on now, and I don't want to be happy with just that. Even though there's a lot out there that I don't know, I have to remind myself that 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't know virtually anything about how to open a laptop. And about 7 years ago, I knew nothing on how to fix an amplifier. But I just said, I want to learn this. Let me see if I can turn this into a business. And that's how you get something turned into a business. The fear that you may fail, or the biggest fear I find is the fear that you don't know enough to start. The fear that you're not ready to start is a crippling fear, and it keeps most people from doing things because they convince themselves. The worst enemy is usually the person speaking to themselves. They convince themselves that they can't do this because they don't know enough. And the point of this video is, if it's a recession, which it is right now, and you're sitting at home saying, crap, I can't really make the $80,000 a year I used to doing this, I don't really know what to do. But in 2013, I hear things are supposed to be better. We're going to have a different president, and I think the economy's going to do a little better, and this is coming back, making a comeback, and I think I'll be able to go back to my field, and maybe I can make some money. Hopefully, don't do that. If you do that, you're likely going to make no money, or you'll have a job interview next year where they go, so what have you been doing for the last year of your life? And you'll say, oh, I got laid off, so I just sat at home, and I was just hoping that you maybe hire me. They're going to look at you and go, man, I don't want to hire you. You spent a year of your life doing dog shit. Whereas if you tried to do something with your life, even if it's something stupid, you could say, well, I was laid off from my job. I used to be a network administrator at a company in Midtown that provided insurance services, and I was laid off. And there was nothing I could do, but I actually figured out how to do, let's say, laptop hardware repair. And I worked on this, and this machine, and that didn't work out, so I started maybe a little accessory store and actually sell accessories online on eBay, and that's a business that's making me about $2,000 a month. But I'm still looking for a real job. But here's how I grew this business. They'll see, you have a working brain. You have an entrepreneurial brain, and you can create solutions to problems. You actually have a much better chance of getting a job. So even if you want to find a job in the regular world instead of start your own business, going out and doing something for yourself gives you a better chance of doing that and makes you more employable. The whole point of this video is to try to get people's head out of the idea that, well, get their mind out of the idea that in order to make money, or in order to have a career, you have to do exactly what you wanted to do, and you have to learn everything about it before you start doing it. Jump into something. Do something very small. I suggest try it under promise, over deliver. Never say you can do more than what you know how to do, and I think you have a good chance of being very, very successful. With that said, good luck and good night.